Hello, welcome to my channel, Another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and I have DNF'd my 96th book in my Read What You Own Platinum Challenge, where I have challenged myself to read 100 books that I already own before buying another book. This will soon morph into the 500 book challenge. Now, why, you may ask yourself, am I counting a DNF towards my goal? Because if I start a book and I make a concentrated effort to read it, and for whatever reason I decide not to finish reading that, I think that should count towards my challenge, because in all likelihood I will never return to this book that I decided to DNF. And that is The X Factor by Andre Norton. I think people need to be willing to DNF books and understand that sometimes the book just does not work for a person. There are a few booktubers here who I would call friends, who are pretty committed to reading every book they start and never DNFing a book. I don't think that is the right philosophy. I think if you start a book and you try reading it, and again, for whatever reason, the book is not working, then just stop reading it. You can say, I tried, I failed. It could be the fault of the reader, that would be me, or it could be the fault of the book, which would be the author's fault. Whosever fault it is, it doesn't matter. You should not have to feel compelled to finish reading a book just because you started. It is okay to put it down and say, I am not going to finish reading this book. And because I own it, it's on my shelves, and I started it, I am counting it. This is not the first book that I DNF that I'm counting for this challenge. I did not actually want a DNF in my final 10 because I wanted to have them all great books, but I could not power through this. It's a short little book. It's a little over 140 pages. It's not very complicated writing. The plot is not very hard, but I was lost. It did not grab me. I was just not interested whatsoever in the story Andre Norton was telling. And this is a story in the far future. There is a man on a planet, what's his name? Diskin. And he's considered, not to be that bright. But his father was part of a space scouts, and he was assigned to a planet to sort of search out and write notes about. And the laws for the scouts is they could take a local wife. And he did, and he fathered a child, Diskin. But eventually his father was sent away, and the rules of that said you can just dissolve the marriage anytime. So this boy, Diskin, was left on this planet. Again, he was considered not very bright, only good for manual labor. And what happened one day is that when he was a teenager to an adult, his father came back and said, I'm taking you back to a planet that I now live, and you're going to join my new family of aliens, because he married a non-human species. So this boy, Diskin, goes to the planet. He still does not get along with the natives. He's still considered, not too bright and no future. So what he does is he steals a spaceship. And because his father was a scout, he has all these logs of cassettes about planets that he's visited. And some of these planets are marked in red, which basically says, stay away from these planets. No one wants to visit them. You're not going to colonize them. So he takes one of these cassettes, sticks it in his stolen spaceship, and the spaceship guides him to this planet. And of course, he crash lands. And he gets out of the crashed spaceship with only the shirt on his back and must learn to survive on this planet. And there are, of course, creatures. He encounters aliens, which he befriends. He can't speak to these aliens because he does not know their language, but he befriends them. And then he discovers a ruined city. And that is as far as I got. It is very simplistic adventure story. This would be if you were wanting to create an argument you would call sci-fi, because it's a very simple, easy plot. There really is not much to the character of Diskin, even though I am sure that he is going to be he will turn out to be a very special person in the end, much better than his father. Something's going to happen that's going to rise him above the expectations that everyone thought he would have, which was complete failure. But again, not interesting. It's dull. It's boring. I was reading this book and you think, oh, I've just read 5 pages and I don't know what has happened in those past 5 pages. So you read the 5 pages again and you get through 2 or 3 more pages and maybe you understand 1 page or maybe 2 pages, but then you're going back and rereading it because your mind is wandering because the story is not crisp. It did not hold me. I had to put it down. I had to DNF this because it was just frigging boring. Now, I know Andre Norton is a much beloved author in many science fiction circles. She was one of the early women to write science fiction and be a successful professional author in the field of science fiction. So she is very, very much regarded held in high regard for that achievement. But for this book, no, I really cannot recommend this particular book to anyone. Now, maybe if you like your science fiction with the adventure, that sci-fi feel, you'll like this book. It's very possible. I mean, it's been in print, or at least it was published in 1965, and this was published in the 80s. So obviously, people do read her books, and obviously some people do enjoy them. Just not me. Well, thank you for watching, and keep on reading.